Today, we're going to talk about a paradox, something that sounds kind of counterintuitive. The idea that the most life-changing habits are also the most mind-numbingly boring ones. So let's just start right there with the big question. Why? Why is it that the habits that actually work, the ones that create real, lasting change, feel so mundane? Meanwhile, we're all out here chasing some new, exciting fad that just never, ever sticks. Let's really break this down. See, on one side, you've got this chase for excitement. It's all about these huge bursts of motivation that feel great for a day or two, but they're completely unsustainable. It leads straight to burnout. But then you have embracing the boredom. This is about quiet consistency, doing the little things every day. That's what leads to compounding gains and eventually a total transformation.
Okay, so our journey into these super boring, super effective habits begins the second you wake up. Let's really get into how the first hour of your day basically sets the stage for everything else.
So, habit number 1. It is so simple, you're going to think it's a joke. Before you even think about coffee, before you grab your phone, just drink a big glass of water. I mean, think about it. You've just gone 7, maybe 8 hours without drinking anything. Your body is dehydrated. You're starting your day with the tank on empty, and this one simple act fills it right back up. And this quote it nails it, right? This isn't some fancy, complicated biohack. It's just basic biology. You're giving your body the one thing it's actually screaming for, instead of just what your half-asleep brain thinks it wants. All right, next up is the one that probably sounds like your mom talking. Make your bed. And I know what you're thinking. It seems so pointless. You're just going to mess it up again in 16 hours, right? But the magic isn't in having a neat bed. The magic is in completing your very first task of the day. You're giving your brain this tiny little jolt of accomplishment that says, hey, I can finish things I start. And this idea, which a lot of people credit to the Navy SEALs, is what this is all about. It's not about having a perfectly tidy room. It's about proving to yourself, day after day, that small acts of discipline build up to bigger ones. It's a tiny win that sets this positive, I got this tone for your whole day. So I want you to think of your brain's energy in the morning like a fully charged phone battery. This chart shows how you should be using it. See that huge 95% chunk? That's for the big stuff, the important decisions. And that tiny little sliver? That's for things like, what am I going to eat? You want to save your power for what really truly matters. And that brings us perfectly to our next habit, because successful people automate the boring stuff. By eating the same breakfast every single day, you take one more decision completely off the table. You save all that precious mental energy for the hard problems that are going to pop up later. It might sound a little boring, a little sad even, but man, is it effective. Okay, so you've won the morning, now let's move into the main event, the middle of the day. These next few habits are all about keeping that morning momentum going and avoiding that killer afternoon crash. You know that feeling, right? The post-lunch food coma. Your productivity just hits a wall and you feel completely useless. Well, there's a ridiculously boring solution. Just go for a 10-minute walk. It stabilizes your blood sugar, it stops that energy nosedive, and it lets you feel like a normal human, instead of, a python trying to digest a deer. Okay, this next one is huge. We have to talk about the difference between a fake break and a real break. Most of us, when we take a break, we're just scrolling our phones. That's a fake break. You're just switching from work stress to social media stress. A real break is actual downtime. Staring out a window, stretching, doing absolutely nothing. It feels incredibly boring, but that's what your brain needs to actually recharge. A chaotic space around you creates chaos in your head. So instead of letting little messes pile up until they become this massive 3-hour weekend project you dread, the boring habit is to just do a quick 10-minute tidy every day. It keeps the chaos at bay and stops your own home from becoming another source of stress. All right, let's shift gears. Now we're going to talk about the habits that take a little more conscious effort. These are all about actively taking back control of your time, your money, and your energy from all those default settings that are quietly draining you. And up next is a habit that, let's be honest, nobody likes doing: tracking your spending. It's tedious, it's boring, and sometimes it's just plain uncomfortable to see where your money is really going. But looking that truth in the eye, tracking every coffee, every subscription, that's the first non-negotiable step to getting control and stopping that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Here's another boring Sunday activity that pays off big time all week long: meal prep. Yeah, spending 2 hours cooking on a Sunday might feel like a total chore, but it gets rid of that daily what's for dinner panic, it saves you a ton of money, and you end up eating way healthier. You make one big, boring decision and you're set for the next 5 days. Let's be real.
How you sleep is basically how you live. When you have a chaotic sleep schedule, your body's internal clock is just totally confused, and you wake up every morning with what one source called alarm violence. But a boring, consistent bedtime, yeah, even on the weekends, lets your body find its natural rhythm. You actually start to wake up feeling refreshed, not just less tired.
And the cure for those nights where you're just endlessly scrolling, unable to fall asleep? It's painfully simple. The process is this. About an hour before bed, you put your phone away. Like away. You pick up a real physical book, and you just let your brain disconnect from that constant fire hose of digital information. It allows you to wind down naturally and get ready for deep quality sleep. So, after all that, let's zoom out. Let's look at the big picture here. Why do all of these super small, seemingly insignificant, boring habits work so well? Well, it all boils down to one incredibly powerful idea.
And this right here, this is the secret. If changing your life was some big, exciting, easy thing, everybody would have done it already. The fact that these habits are boring is a feature, not a bug. It takes real discipline. It takes actual consistency. And that is exactly why it works. It filters out everyone who's just looking for a quick fix.
So let's just put it all together. Exciting habits, they run on motivation, and motivation always fades. They burn out fast, and they just don't stick. But boring habits, they build discipline. They quietly stack up, day after day, week after week, and that is what creates real, permanent transformation.
And that brings us to the final, amazing paradox. The people who look like they have it all figured out, the ones with all the energy, the success, the sense of calm, they are not powered by chaos and drama. Their lives are built on a foundation of consistent, boring habits that free them up to live a life that is genuinely exciting.
And that's really all there is to it. The question isn't whether or not these habits work. We know they do. The only real question is, are you willing to embrace a little bit of boredom to get incredible results?